I think based on the fact that I haven't recorded anything yet, it is pretty obvious that I wasn't expecting to record anything today. But we do have some news to get to, and a lot of it is from our favorite people at WrestleVotes, including a lot of WWE updates. So let's get right to the news right now. It starts with the unfortunate update from WrestleVotes where they did not guarantee it. And they even said that they hope it's not true, but due to the potential of, or the expectation of, WWE completing the merger at some point in the next by the end of the year with the UFC, it is expected that WWE will make some roster cuts over the next 6 weeks before July the 1st, which, unfortunately, July the 1st is Money in the Bank. So, it is the next pay-per-view for WWE after Night of Champions. And also, it is a featured pay-per-view for talent to have the opportunity to break out because of the Money in the Bank. Because of the Money in the Bank ladder match. But, with that being said, it is the question of how many people are how many is minor roster cuts? And also, is it that we can expect minor roster cuts, or is it where we're going to unfortunately see more than minor roster cuts, and it's going to be on the more side of what we saw 2 years ago with the pandemic in 2021, or hell, even in 2022 as well. But it's unfortunate because of the fact that a lot of the people that were brought back were just brought back, unless it is people that have been hovering around in NXT, and you're trimming the fat in NXT, which I think it is entirely possible that that could be something that they choose to do by trimming the fat down on NXT. And I'm not going to say, oh, well, it's something, blah, 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 blah. No, it's still people losing their jobs, but like somebody like Johnny Gargano, in my opinion, this time around, is safe, or should be safe, because of the fact that they have something planned with Gargano and the way with Gargano, Indy Hartwell, Dexter Lumis, and Candice LeRae. And you would hope that they have something planned with the way, because otherwise, why bring Indy Hartwell up to the main roster? That's number one. Number two is, well, I mean, honestly, number two is Karrion Kross, where I have said nothing but nothing but good things about Dakota Kai and Io Sky since they made their returns last year at SummerSlam to the main roster. Or debuts, I should say, on the main roster, because before SummerSlam last year, they had never been on the main roster. But I have said nothing but good things about them, and I think that they are two of the top people when it comes to people who have broken out since their returns, or since they came back to WWE. Talent like Braun Strowman. I mean, Braun Strowman found a role for himself in the tag team division, which is good. But I think a lot of people had higher expectations for Braun when he returned than him being in the tag team division with Ricochet. And the same could be said for Karrion Kross, that a lot of people had more expectations or higher expectations for Karrion Kross when he returned than him being just a guy that randomly feuds with people. You know what I mean? So it is ideally something that you don't want to see in any way, shape, or form. You don't want to see people get released. But I am still of the belief that if somebody's been under contract for a certain amount of time, they may have hit their wall as far as what they can do within the walls of WWE and need to be Matt Cardona'd and saved from being in WWE to allow to spread their wings and fly, per se, within the ranks of another company, outside the walls of WWE, to Drew McIntyre and find themselves and then come back. Or Bobby Lashley, or I don't want to say LA Knight because LA Knight is still up, it's still up in the air what the potential of LA Knight has, or what potential LA Knight has. But, I think LA Knight has all the potential in the world, and I do hope that, I think everybody's going to have their opinion of WWE making roster cuts. But I do hope WWE has those decisions, or makes those decisions with some foresight. And speaking of WWE roster cuts, WrestleVotes also gives us an update. I just want to say before we, shift away, WrestleVotes makes it clear that it is not 100% that WWE is going to make roster cuts. It is not 100% that WWE will make roster cuts before July the 1st. Within the next 6 weeks. But it is expected that they will, and that what roster cuts they make are not expected to be major, but are expected to help. I don't want to say limit the damage, because WWE is not really damaged by their roster because of record profits and all that shit, but it's just something that is expected because of the merger, that they have to crisp out the bottom line, and them crisping out the bottom line is something that is just expected. So, two people that have been up in the air because of their contracts are Drew McIntyre and Becky Lynch, but according to WrestleVotes, both Drew McIntyre and Becky Lynch are expected to return to the company and stick around with the company and re-sign, but it is not ruled out that they may not re-sign. I think Becky is more likely than Drew, because Becky seems to be able to have the schedule she wants, and there's no creative issues, there's none of this, none of that, like there is with Drew. And like I've said in the series that I'm doing with McIntyre with WWE 2K22, those creative issues should not really exist, because you're talking about somebody who carried the company during the pandemic. It's something that shouldn't be there. You know what I mean? And it's just a question of why. If I was WWE, instead of having somebody that specifically works with Bray Wyatt, if Bray's not coming back anytime soon, I would have that guy specifically coming up with ideas to bring McIntyre back to television. Because if you don't look at him as an asset, if you don't look at him as somebody that could do wonderful things for the WWE, then release him now and let him go somewhere where he will be an asset. Because he is an asset, and you're blind not to see that. Do I think that Becky Lynch will also stick with WWE because it will allow her to do more acting and, have the schedule she wants and et cetera, et cetera? Yes. Will McIntyre leave? I doubt it, but if things don't improve, I wouldn't blame him if he did. In the next news video, we will talk about Dark Side of the Ring, and also an update on WWE's media rights deal, as well as CM Punk. But I just want to mention, speaking of WWE media rights deal, Nick Khan said that there is a potential to have Raw move off of Mondays and adding a third hour to SmackDown. I don't watch the shows, but God almighty, God, would that be a travesty if they added a third hour to SmackDown, because SmackDown is good at 2 hours. I know it would give them more money, but quality over the financial benefits should outweigh the quality of the product should outweigh the financial benefits in that opinion. Unless you have a specific way of making the third hour different, don't risk it. It's not worth it. SmackDown doesn't need a third hour, and Raw doesn't need to move off of Mondays. Neither of those things should happen. Will it? I think the third hour of SmackDown is more likely than Raw moving off of Mondays, but WWE wants all the power in their control, all the momentum in their court, and saying that they'd be comfortable doing this or doing that allows them to have more momentum than they might if they didn't make it clear how flexible they were with the media rights deals. So I think that's more where they're going, and it's a smart business move by Nick Khan, but I would hope it's not accurate or true that they actually are considering it. And we'll talk about that, the reason why I'm hoping that's the case, in the next news video, because I'm done with this one. I will see you in the next one.